Started.
A practice session. Can I have a look to see what the phone can? Is the phone
Mhm. Everything on silent, including the thing.
What did you say? How did you say to do this?
Sorry?
Well, it says, why is it saying, oh,
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Let me start that again. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, 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 dear brothers and sisters, friends, and all of you who are viewers, regular viewers of the Imagination Show. Welcome to another episode of the Imagination Show, My name is Brother Leo Muhammad. I am your host, and sitting alongside me is my beloved sister, helper, friend, wife, and indispensable person by my side for each and every one of these sessions. Please introduce yourself, sister.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sister Claudia Mohammed, and welcome to another edition of the Imagination Show. We thank you all for your time. We pray that Allah, God, has kept you all safe and that you continue to receive and be grateful for the countless blessings from Allah, God. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Beautiful. Yeah, the week has gone so quickly, dear family, and in between the time that we last saw you and now, so much has happened in truth. And as always, we are very honored and privileged to have an opportunity to come to you wherever you may be viewing this from. And as always, we encourage you to let us know where you are in the world, where you are tuning into the Image and Nation Show. The Image and Nation Show goes out each and every Thursday evening at 6:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, because we are based in the United Kingdom, and we feel always greatly honored and privileged to have an opportunity to share with you some of the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, using those teachings as a filter to look at and to analyze some of the contemporary issues taking place in the world today. And so, dear family, it's called Image and Nation, because we believe that we have the capacity, we have the ability to conceive in our minds a brand new reality, a brand new nation. And if we can see it, we can bring it into reality. We can make it manifest. And the Imagination Show is designed to help all of us to really begin to cultivate and rebuild that faculty called imagination. Image a nation. We desire as a people to regain our self-determination, to be able to determine for ourselves what our futures will be, because for far too long, we have not had that self-determination. We have been literally suppressed and oppressed by the powers that be, using their proxies of law and order, the system, education, the economics. Everything that you can imagine has been waged against us as a people to keep us under the thumb, to keep us under the yoke of another people. And it's time, dear family, for us to extricate ourselves from this situation and to take our own lives and our own destiny into our own hands. And so this is the motivation that drives, got something in my throat. This is the motivation that drives the Image and Nation Show. And I really want to thank all of you for tuning in, for being with us yet again on another episode. Dear family, go ahead, sister.
I'd say a shout out to our brother Ismaila Sise, who is in Finland.
Wow.
On a visit.
Welcome, welcome from Finland.
Also to Black Mary from Sacramento, California.
Sacramento, California.
Lucas General. Assalamu alaikum to you. Assalamu alaikum, brother David Muhammad. Yes, Lucas General is from South Africa.
South Africa.
Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, dear family. Keep letting us know where you are. And don't forget, make a phone call. Give somebody a little ding. Give somebody a little shout. There may be somebody else in the household who isn't a regular one to tune in. Tell them to tune into the Imagination Show. And also, dear family, our viewership is incrementally growing each and every week. But at the same time that the viewership grows, we don't really see that the likes and the shares are growing, and also the subscriptions are growing to the extent that they ought to be. So we remind you again to like, share, and subscribe, and really, get this show moving. We want it to be interactive in that way, where you play your part and we will play ours, in always trying to bring to you content that is of benefit to all of us. Dear family, we are very happy to have this opportunity, as I've stated, and we shall begin like this. And so we say, as always, welcome to episode 93. We are getting closer to the 100 mark. It's quite unbelievable, in truth, that we've nearly done 100 shows. It seems like only yesterday that it was show 1. And, we have made some progress since that time. So welcome to episode 93 of the Imagination Show. And this week, our title is Carnival. And for those of you who don't know, we have just come out of the Notting Hill Carnival, which is an annual event, normally takes place towards the end of August. And that was what was happening over the weekend and also on Bank Holiday Monday. There's a bank holiday in the UK on Monday, and on Sunday, those are the 2 main days of the Notting Hill Carnival. This is a yearly event. It was interrupted. COVID interrupted it for a couple of years, but now it's back. And we had a presence down there, and we want to talk about that this evening because we think it's important. Because, when we looked at some of what was happening, it really dawned on us that our people just need, I always refer to this scripture, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And this is a real enemy to us, ignorance. The fact that when we take part or indulge in things that we really don't understand, it's potentially very, very dangerous and very harmful to us. And we ought to know what it is that we are engaging in, because it's a pretty serious business, in truth, what's going on. So here we go, dear family. I hope everybody is good. As Sister Claudia said, enjoying the many benefits of Almighty God Allah. Now, the word carnival seems to derive from the Italian word carne, which explains its Christian origins. Okay, carnival has Christian origins according to this meaning. In an article entitled The Origins and History of Carnival, they say the world's oldest party. Okay, the following is written. And when they say the world, don't make a mistake of thinking this is really talking about the ancient world of the original people. This is really talking about the world of the Caucasians. So it's their oldest party. And so it said the word carnival seems to derive from the Italian word carne, which explains its Christian origin. In Italian, carne levare means meat, M-E-A-T, okay, meat. While in Latin, carnevale means farewell to meat. The dictionary shows there is a relationship between the word carnival and carnivorous, with carnivore or carnivorous meaning meat eating or of an animal feeding on other animals. This is where you get carnivorous and carnivore from. So there's a direct correlation and relationship between carnival and this concept of meat eating. And it really struck me, over the weekend, being in that environment and seeing all of the naked flesh on show, just how carnivorous the whole thing was, just how animalistic to some degree it is. And of course, we can shy away from telling the truth about such things because unfortunately so many of us as a people, we will think, well, that's our culture. Carnival is our thing. And so, how could we criticize that? No, again, much of what passes for Black culture today, believe it or not, got nothing to do with Black people. It's not our culture at all. Most of what we think is Black culture has been imposed, and it's something that we've adopted. Most of the foods that we eat, for instance, as so-called Caribbean people, is a leftover from our enslavement. And so today you see, we will eat things like cow foot. We will eat things like pig's tails. We will eat things like tripe, which is literally the intestines of the pig or the goat. We will eat all manner of things of this nature. But when you trace the origins of these things, you'll see that these were the leftovers, the waste products from the creatures, from the animals, that the slave masters did not wish to eat themselves. And this is what they would throw to us, the enslaved people. And that when you do that for generations, when you do that for hundreds of years, consuming that becomes habit, and habit becomes home. That becomes cultural, but it doesn't mean that it's a natural part of our culture. It's something that we adopted out of necessity for survival. But once we know better, it's like I was in Africa on one occasion, and we were in this small village, and the brothers and sisters, they gave me a little bowl with some grubs in it, these fat looking little sort of worm things that were moving around. And I said, no, thank you. Because you see, again, when we're ignorant, we may eat such things. We may go into the bark of the tree and dig out these types of things, that these little wormy creatures, and eat them when we don't know better, or when we don't have anything else or anything better. But once we know better, dear family, we shouldn't be consuming them. The French like to eat snails as a delicacy. Well, snails is not food. Snails is not food for human beings to consume. And again, just because they do that, it doesn't mean that we should. And they call it escargot. It sounds so nice, doesn't it? Escargots, snails. I don't know if it's a French word, but I don't see why we would eat such things. In the Nation of Islam, we don't eat crayfish. We don't eat prawns. We don't eat crabs. When I was in the world, I used to love crab. I used to eat lobster and things like that. Not that we ate that on a regular basis. It's actually, I think, quite expensive food in this world. But once we learned through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that these are what's called bottom feeders, or like, for instance, the crab is a sea spider. We don't consume such things, dear family. They're scavengers. That's the right terminology, because they scavenge from waste products on the bottom of the ocean. So we don't eat such things. Crustaceans, they're things, mollusk. What are those things that they like to call some type of aphrodisiac, supposed to give you sexual prowess or whatever, oysters and things like that. No, we don't consume such things. Octopus, things of that nature. No, dear family. But, in this world, they like to eat all such things. And when we know better, when we are taught by God, then we put aside such things, and we're very careful about what we put into this temple, this living temple of God, because what we eat, we become. Yes,
I was going to say, I've seen Black people eat oysters. Wow. And you can see they want to be sick, but just to be in the crowd, and then they swallow it, that slimy
thing.
Yeah, but just to be in with the crowd.
Wow. Yeah. According to this article, the origin of Carnival is a debatable affair. Today, Carnival is principally a Christian affair, celebrated mainly in countries with large Catholic populations like Brazil, etc. However, how did Carnival start? Carnival pagan origin started long before the emergence of Christianity, as it was a celebration that featured predominantly in many pagan cultures. I want us to think, dear family, because again, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all of them are Eastern religions. They all originated with the black man, with the black woman. They all came from us. However, once the Europeans got hold of these religions, then he began to usurp and to corrupt the religions. And so understand that most of the religious orders today on the planet bear little resemblance to their true character and their true nature, because some have been completely usurped and taken over by an enemy of God, by an enemy of a righteous way of life. And so, this is why we have to point out the connection and the origin between such things as carnival and so-called Christianity. And when we say Christianity, we're talking about that version of Christianity, which is really European. That European practice is what we are identifying here, not the original teachings of a man who lived 2,000 years ago by the name of Isa or Jesus. We're not talking about the original teachings of Musa or Moses that today, some who call themselves Jews say that they are following, but in reality are not following at all. Nor are we talking about the original teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the old-time religion that he received revelation about 1,400 years ago, which today we call Islam. Dear family, I hope everybody is good, and I hope that this subject again will bring some light where there may be some darkness or confusion. So going back 3,000 or 4,000 years ago is where we find the origin of carnival. Question: how and why is carnival celebrated? Well, in ancient times, long before the emergence of Christianity, people who we call pagans today had wild celebrations centered around the winter and spring solstices and spring and fall equinoxes, okay? These wild celebrations were the ones that people were reluctant to give up even after they became Christians. So the pagans having these wild celebrations, these carnivals, and then they came into Christianity, but they were reluctant to give up those practices. And so the European pagan practices were incorporated into the new religion called Christianity. The important point to understand is that carnival is pagan through and through. This is important because, again, we will think, in a sense, really, that it's something that we invented or we created. When we say carnival in the UK, do we think about white people or do we think about black people? You see what I mean? See, so the thought process is somehow this is us, this is our thing, okay? And when I was thinking about today's show, I was thinking how clever and how subtle the enemy is, how he will take over things that we begin or things that we start, and how he will put his own stamp, his own mark on it. And oftentimes we don't even recognize that the thing has been taken over. And we will think that, it's ours or it continues to be ours. Again, I was just reflecting on how these African nations all around the year 1960 became so-called independent from France. But when France made them to sign this continuation of colonization pact that meant in reality that colonization literally continued. It didn't cease, but in name only did they become independent. And this is what I'm talking about. I remember one time being in the Zimbabwean embassy, talking to them about the way in which the Zimbabwean embassy in London, talking to them about the way in which the enemy keeps hold. He lets go with his right hand, but at the same time that he lets go with his right hand, his left hand is holding onto your ankle, and you don't realize that his grip is maintained. And then when you look, I don't know how many of you have seen these images. I was in the Gambia on one occasion. I just went to look at their courts, their courtrooms, the High Court, and I was shocked and dismayed to walk into that place and see Black barristers and lawyers with those wigs on, mimicking or imitating the wigs that the Europeans, the Caucasians in Britain wear, according to their legal traditions. And so that's what I mean when they let go with the right hand, but they maintain their hold with the left hand, because what that means is that they say, okay, colonization is over, but they leave their system in place. The way the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it, he said that they are the skunk of the planet Earth. What does that mean? Has anybody ever come across a skunk? Well, a skunk is a creature that carries a tremendously bad stink with it. And if a skunk is in the room or in the vicinity, and then it leaves, you don't have to see the skunk. It leaves its stench behind. Wherever it goes, it leaves this horrible stench behind. And that stench is the European legal system, the European political system, the European monetary system that France left, that binds all of these African nations to France. The fact that they have to get all of their military training from France, the fact that France can intervene in their domestic affairs and their domestic policies, shows you that the system remains, even though they say the country is now independent. It's really in word and word only. Dear family, pray that you are doing well. Now, many pagans held large celebrations that revolved around the spring equinox. Celebrations were always held around the end of winter to celebrate the coming of spring and the renewal of fertility. Fertility is very, very important. Again, we're talking about the carnality, we're talking about nakedness, we're talking about meat, we're talking about sex. And, you know, at the carnival over the weekend, my God, it was so naked in terms of the way, not just women, the women were predominantly the ones who were naked, but there was naked brothers as well, in truth. But it's very much about a kind of sexual free-for-all that goes on. And I when I was studying for this, I could see the relationship between the pagan practices and what was taking place over the weekend. Carnival was essentially seen as a spiritual passage from dark to light, winter to summer. In Europe, the pagans believed that evil spirits ruled the world during winter and that they had to be driven out for summer to return. Many pagans also held celebrations at the end of successful harvest heading into winter, and were a way of thanking the spirits. I mean, again, you often hear us say in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, no spooks. And so with pagans and paganism, a lot of spooky stuff. They worship wood, they worship the wind, they worship water, they worship the trees, they worship stones and whatever. So again, just reading, this history, there was a hell of a lot of spooky beliefs that went along with paganism. And so, dear family, Dionysia was a large pagan spring festival held in ancient Greece and in honor of Dionysus, who was the god of wine, And if you see the amount of alcohol that was being consumed at the carnival, my goodness, you know, it was scary, really, to see the amount of brothers and sisters walking with these big bottles of whiskey and brandy and Captain Morgan and Hennessy and you name it, they had it. Okay, and they had obviously the beer was there in tins and bottles or whatever, but people had vodka. You could see all of these, and they had their little mixtures. Some people were carrying bags with their drink, not to mention the youngsters who are carrying these canisters full of what's it called? The dioxide that they suck. Nitrous oxide, which is, again, we did a show where we talked about it quite extensively, but the nitrous oxide that they use to inflate balloons, or they use to in those devices that squirt cream when they're making cakes and things of that nature. Well, these canisters were very, very prevalent last year at Carnival and this year also. And I think the law has recently been changed where the police were now, I'm sure I saw them confiscating them last year, but I think now you can even be charged with something. I think the law has been changed where you can be charged with something, either in the form of, because if they can prove that you are supplying these things, and you saw some of these young people with several of these things in bags or whatever, trying to bring them in. But yeah, this is Dionysus, who was the god of wine. The Roman Empire adopted this tradition and honored Saturnalia and Brumalia, who were their gods of wine and sexual orgies. These festivals were all about feasting and drunken sexual revelry. The question for us today is, what is the origin of the Notting Hill Carnival? This is the carnival that we were at over the weekend. You see, because again, if we're reading about the history of Carnival and where it comes from and how it's a pagan thing that came with these Europeans, 4,000 years ago, what's the origin of the Notting Hill Carnival? And do Black people even know what it is that we are celebrating? Okay, family, so the Notting Hill Carnival today bears no resemblance to the original concept and idea that fueled Black people to take to the streets of West London starting in 1964 in protest against anti-Black racism, white mob violence, police brutality, and the general hostile environment that was all pervasive in those days. So I've laid out there for you, dear family, the reason why we as a people originally took to the streets in 1964, okay? Which is when it really got started. The first time I think it was called Carnival was around 1966, when it evolved into something where other people got involved and put a name on it. But originally, it was about stopping anti-Black racism. It was about stopping white mob violence against Black people. It was literally about stopping murders. Kelso Cochran was a very high-profile murder of a Black man in that area of West London, which precipitated and which really gave the impetus to one of our sister, I think her name was Claudia Jones,
Mhm.
who was one of the people who really was the inspiration behind the original demonstrations and protests, and the idea to have like a street procession to highlight the fact that the Black community is here, was here, and that we wanted an end to white mob violence, police brutality, and the hostile environment that many of the people coming from the Caribbean, starting in around 1948, right up into the 60s and through the 70s, where there were signs put up, no Blacks, no Irish, no dogs, okay, where our people were forced at that time to really stand in solidarity in order to survive what was happening on the streets of West London and in other parts of the country. So I just wanted to play something for you. Claudia Jones. Yeah. She was one of the original people.
She played a central role in founding the Notting Hill Carnival, the second largest annual carnival in the world.
Wonderful. Yeah, that sister. So she goes down in history.
She was from Trinidad.
Trinidadian. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to play you a little bit about the history, and we might stop it a couple of times just to make comment.
The Notting Hill Carnival started in 1964, but the prelude to that goes as far back as the Windrush, because it was started by many people who came as part of the Windrush generation between 1948 to 1972. So many of them came with their skills and culture and traditions into London. And as we all know, they were very, very difficult.
So just before the sister continues, if you see what it says on the sign being held up by the brother, murder in Notting Hill. See, it was a serious business why the people took to the streets, because we were really trying to survive and stop being murdered. Okay, Black and white can live together in harmony. This has always been the sentiment of Black people, isn't it? Can't we all just get along, you know? And so it's just, again, from my perspective, important that we understand how this thing began and what it's become today.
Times for these Caribbean people, and they ended up congregating in places like Brixton and Notting Hill. They started to try to develop their own communities.
I was saying that looks like Jana. You see that little face? Yeah. There's a little child in the picture. She looks like one of our daughters. But yes, it was a time when we were forced to come together, to congregate together, and to create an environment of our own that was more conducive to the Caribbean, more conducive to life, as opposed to the gray death that we were subject to, and in that kind of hostile environment.
And the Notting Hill Carnival came about as a direct result of the Notting Hill riots, because of course there was a lot of racism.
You hear that? It came about as a result of riots. And again, I've got to say this, you know, when we hear about Notting Hill riots, remember that most of the violence was always instigated first and foremost by mobs of white people who would come into those areas where we had been forced to live. Because of racism, we were pushed into particular areas such as Notting Hill and Brixton. Now we're now being pushed out of these areas in the application called gentrification, and spread out all over the country, because now we're not allowed to have Black communities. But that's another story. But the point is that these so-called riots, race riots, were not Black people necessarily going on the rampage and, you know, doing damage to the society. It was more the case of white mobs coming in, attempting to attack Black people, and Black people defending themselves, fighting back. The brothers and the young people would get together and they would literally defend the community to the best of their ability.
Racism and hatred and discrimination going on at the time.
This is the brother
called Kelso Cochran.
Kelso Cochran, he was a brother who was on his way home from work one evening when he was stabbed to death by a white mob. And the individual actually who did the stabbing, the white man who did the stabbing, I don't think he was ever brought to justice. He was questioned by the police, but he was never, ever prosecuted and brought to trial and, you know, found guilty. I think years after the event, the knife that he used to stab the brother was found on these floorboards in his house. I think after he had died or something like that. I can't remember how the story goes, but this is the type of reality that we faced historically in this country.
Was murdered on the streets by gangs. The idea of the carnival started with someone called Claudia Jones, who was a Trinidadian journalist, and decided that she would try and make every effort to unite the communities and get them working together. Carnival is a very integral part of our lives in Trinidad. She wanted to replicate something similar. So she started off holding galas in great halls, like having a steel band, having calypsos, having dancers. And she also engaged the services of her friend, Russ Henderson. She asked him to play music in the street on this particular day for the children to parade in costume. My husband was one of the musicians who played with Russ Henderson. And so they put all their instruments on their backs and around their necks and played music in the streets of Notting Hill. And that has been acknowledged as the start of the street carnival. We told him, me and the...
So again, what was the motivation? The motivation was to give a profile, was to show our existence, to bring some of the color and some of the tradition from Trinidad and Tobago into the streets of West London, to, you know, say we're here and to play music, maybe even to calm some of these natives, well, they're not even natives, but to calm some of these hostile people, because maybe one of these days I'm going to do something on music, because, and how it charms the beast, and why our music has been a saving grace for us, in the way in which it has kept some of the more vicious elements at bay. That's another story for another day. But suffice to say, dear family, that the origin of the Notting Hill Carnival is really far removed from the pagan origins. But unfortunately, the two things have become fused now to the degree where it is very carnal, it is very fleshy, it is very much about meat and a carnivorous type of behavior that we see on display on the streets of Notting Hill these days. And what I would encourage our people to do is to return to the protest tradition, to return to the liberation idea and concept behind us going into the streets, as opposed to the frivolity and the sexually explicit type of behavior that we see in those streets these days. Because, man, it's something to behold, dear family. For those of you who weren't there, don't know what I'm talking about, those of you who are abroad and maybe you haven't experienced that, I guess you could, those of you in America and New Orleans and places like that, think about Mardi Gras. Those of you in South America, think about the Brazilian carnivals or whatever. But the Notting Hill Carnival is yet another one of those types of situations where it's very, very carnal, it's very, very naked, It's very, very raw. And, the authorities and the powers that be, they have their own motivations for what they're doing there, while our people are mostly, going there trying to have, I don't know, some fun or whatever, but I don't think they really understand what is the motive behind the authorities. We'll get into that in a second.
Tell children that he had a choice of, what we call the band, and he decided on the word Genesis. And we're one of the oldest and longest running bands that participates in Notting Hill Carnival. My husband passed away in 2002, but we ensured that our children understood the legacy, understood what Carnival was about. And they actually, to my wonderment.
You see what our sister said there? She said that they ensured that their children understood what Carnival was all about, understood the legacy, but in reality, that's not true, because the children today don't know anything about the origin of this and why it took place in the first place. That may have been a hope or a wish or a desire, but that hasn't been manifest in the young people today.
Sorry, they said the chat is disabled.
Oh, really? Let's have a look. Oh, for everyone.
Sorry.
Sorry, family. Yes. So, yeah, did you pick up on that, Sister Claudia, what they were saying? She was saying that, like the children know about the history and the origin, but
no, because I didn't know either.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I really don't think they do.
And joy, they have actually embraced it fully.
And again, that particular video was commissioned, produced by the Evening Standard, which is a newspaper here in the UK. And I can assure you, the Evening Standard is not going to be desirous in any way or form of the real story being told. So our sister did her best in trying to recall some of the history, but I can assure you, that's not exactly correct. And so we were there, family, as members of the Nation of Islam London Study Group. And the two most prevalent things that we observed were the naked bodies of our people and the massive and overwhelming police operation, with police units drafted in from all over the country for what looked like a special exercise or training mission in animal husbandry, okay? Or you might call it crowd control, and a tag and release program of the youth for later follow-up. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about here. The carnival today, I'm sure that so many people go and they think that, they're just going to go along and they're going to have such a great time and they're going to be able to go here and there. Apparently the estimates are anything between 1 and 2 million people turn out for the carnival each and every year over those 2 days. And it's a massive crowd with lots of floats in a procession, with music and bands and, troops of dancers with costumes and all kinds of stuff that's there. And when we were driving out of there and at the end of the night, Sister Claudia was so shocked to see the carnage, the rubbish that was left behind. And it looked like a dystopian type of after a war or after a bomb had been dropped or something, the mess that was left. But nonetheless, when you actually get into the processions, get into the crowd, what the police have done and what they've been doing over several years is that you cannot turn back. You can't go where you want to go. you are corralled, and it's very dangerous. I mean, it's really the amount of people who end up getting distressed and injured. And last year we had to go and rescue some of the young girls, my daughter among them, and a few others. We had to, some of the P.O.W.E.R, the brothers in the nation, we had to go in and literally rescue some of them, because it was that bad that they were trapped and they couldn't get out. And they were fortunate that they were able to make a phone call, because even the noise, you can't hear phones ringing or anything like that. But it's really a horrible situation where people basically are forced to do what the police want you to do, to go where they want you to go. You literally have no choice. Once you get caught up in that crowd, and you're in there for hours as well, because you can't just get out, at any particular point, because they've got barriers and so many restrictions. Roads are blocked, other roads you can't enter, places you can't go. I mean, it's and I'm observing all of this, and I'm telling you, man, it became very abundantly clear, and wasn't just over the weekend. I've seen it over several years, as I said, but it becomes abundantly clear that during these 2 days of so-called carnival, the Notting Hill Carnival, I believe it's an opportunity for the police to test out new systems, to train their troops, because you see every police force there. They're all there. The City of London police forces, you got all of these paramilitary looking police, you got so many. Some of them are coming from up north, out of town. They're not just like in London. And everybody gets an opportunity to come and do some training among these wild Black people. And it seems to me, that's what this is all about. And then you have a situation where all of these young brothers, primarily brothers, but obviously some sisters as well, because I saw some young sisters very upset after the brothers that they were with, the young boys that they were with, had been stopped by the police and stop and search. They enacted over the 2 days something called a Section 60. And a Section 60 is what the police use to stop and search anybody at any time over in a particular area that is being designated as potentially dangerous, or a place where there could be weapons or knives or drugs or something of that nature. And so a Section 60 was in operation over the 2 days. And so that gave them the right, that was the power that they were using to stop and search all of these young people. And they were finding knives, they were finding drugs, they were many of the young people that they stopped and searched, they found nothing because they were innocent, they had nothing. But in reality, they did find some of them with weapons and things of this nature. There was a couple of occasions we were observing a lot of what was going on as P.O.W.E.R, Brothers in the Nation of Islam, and we would intervene, and the police would try to explain to us what they were doing in terms of trying to justify their actions against these young people. And, there were a couple of young brothers, one brother in particular, a young brother that we spoke to, and he was so intoxicated that it was ridiculous. And he was literally desperately trying to get himself arrested, not even realizing that he was going to be arrested. Because you see, what the police, they don't really want to be arresting anybody during the carnival, in the sense that it takes away from their manpower to actually have police officers have to leave the scene and take somebody away to a van, which the vans can't just be there. They have to go for a long procession, a long walk through crowds, which they don't want to do. They don't want to be seen to have people handcuffed going through the crowds, because who knows, it may become volatile. So what they do instead is that they confiscate drugs, they confiscate weapons, presumably if it's too serious an incident, you will be arrested and you will be escorted out and you will be taken to the van and you will be transported to a police station somewhere. But the point is that what they want to do with the lesser crimes, the possession of small quantities of drugs or those canisters or things of that nature, is they then get all of the individual's details, and those details are logged. This is why I call it a program of tag and release. It's like when those scientists, anthropologists go into the jungles and they tag the creatures, they tag the animals, and they can track them after they've tagged them, and then they can capture them at a later stage. It seemed to me again that this was a tag and release type of exercise, and they were stopping and capturing Black youth left, right, and center.
Well, Bawana asked the question, Brother Leo, why do we continue to participate in an activity where we get mistreated? At the end of the day, who does it benefit besides the UK prison system and Notting Hill real estate market?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful question, and you're right. Was it a brother?
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. In your view, you're absolutely right. And again, this is why we think it's important to do a show like this, where you highlight the reality of Carnival, where you highlight the reality of what it's really about, so that you encourage our people to say, look, we don't need to be doing these types of things. We don't need to be engaged in this, but you can't change people's attitudes and behavior without giving them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding about what it is that they're taking part. Because unfortunately, a lot of our people engage or indulge in these things in ignorance. We actually don't realize that it's an exercise in futility, and that all we're doing is subjecting ourselves and exposing ourselves to a system that's geared to absolutely exploit our ignorance.
That's right.
In those circumstances.
Because you don't see any other race, women who have their women dressed like that.
Naked. Yeah.
For any man of any color to just touch.
Yeah.
She's not protected. Could you go to the comments there in the chat?
Yeah, and it's scary what was some of the images. So JJ Sorrel says, greetings, Brother Lee and sister, and all tuned in. Beverly says, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Leo, Sister Claudia. Yes, we had free range. Paulette says, that's what I thought, Brother Leo. It was crazy. The young people was naked and the police, I felt trapped, you see? That's real. That's very, very real. Paulette, I caught a young brother. He opened my daughter's bag. Wow. I just happened to turn around just in time before you took her phone out of her bag. Crazy. Yeah, you see, and this is it. And our young people, so many of them, they play right into the hands of the police, because they see Carnival as an opportunity to come down and get into a whole heap of madness and badness. And they don't understand that they are basically walking into a trap that's been set. And like I said, it's an exercise, it's a training ground for the police, Carnival. It's a wonderful opportunity for them. It's just amazing for them to be able to practice how to control 1 million people, how to corral them, how to kettle them in a way that they can't move. There was times when they would stop the people, and they would allow the people to build up into a crowd, the people getting all frustrated, and then they would wave a certain amount of them through, then they would stop them again. I mean, man, I would never subject myself to something like that, because it's, like I said, you've been treated like cattle. Go ahead.
Then when you think of it, when you take it even deeper, the Black woman is the mother of civilization. And then to see her dressed like that, to see her naked like that.
Yeah, and
that goes deep.
Of course it does. And look at the police.
That's right.
Yeah, you know, remember all of the recent scandals with the Metropolitan Police, with all these rapists that have been discovered, that murderers in uniform. And, you know, imagine, you know, our sisters, some of them, they're so silly that they love to come and wind up themselves on a policeman. Right. I've seen over the years people literally pouring alcohol into a policeman's helmet and drinking from the helmet. This is how stupid we are, and how stupid some of us become, where we get paid a bit of attention by some police and we think we've arrived, and basically they're mocking. Last year when I went down there, I remember when I was first walking in, I saw some police standing on the corner. There was about 10 or 12 of them on the corner. And I saw them laughing at some black people. They were giggling and pointing and laughing. And that was me entering the carnival. And myself and a few of the brothers, I went over there and I just cussed them. I cussed the police. I told them, I know what you're here doing, mocking people. I said, but the mockery is on you. I said, when you left out this morning, did you look in the mirror? Because if you looked in the mirror, you should be laughing at yourself, your ugly self. I cussed them, these face turned bright red. And, you know, but that's what I see going on down there. It's pure mockery. And we don't even understand that we're being mocked. And some of our sisters, I mean, big sisters, you know, overweight sisters. Okay, I'm not a politically correct person, so I'm not going to try and use no politically correct language, but big sisters with just a string in their backside, everything on it. And I'm saying, my God, how do you even leave your house? And somebody, either you've convinced yourself or somebody's told you that that looks good. And it's like we've lost all shame.
That's right.
I heard the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan say, at least the animal's got a tail to cover its private parts.
Well, Brother Alvin Muhammad said, nothing left to your imagination.
Nothing at all. Stephen
Brown said, peace and blessings to you, family. I think it's a sadness that the young people at that corner, disgrace their ancestors with their ignorance, trying to be part of something that is nothing. Ronald Thompson says, Black people are still asleep. We look foolish. Brother Alvin Muhammad says, sins of the father will be passed on to the children for generations to come. And I shouldn't laugh. Boana said, the string. He said, the string holding on for dear life.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, man, honestly, it's scary, some of the stuff that we witnessed down there, because our people, no shame, beloved, no shame.
Dead.
Yes. So we occupied a small area of Carnival where we played some conscious music and presented a wholesome image of upright men and women who still possess some memory of why we originally took to the streets of Notting Hill in West London. And I'll tell you this, dear family, that's one of our brothers there in you know, a suit and tie. And that's how we were dressed for the most part down there. And I tell you, family, honestly, the amount of our people who came up to us, they were so glad, so happy to see some people who were bucking the trend. We weren't there in carnival mode. We were there for a different reason. We had a different agenda. We were there to show an alternative. And this is the thing I'm saying, you know, okay, we can criticize our people. We can call them ignorant. We can say they're stupid or whatever, but we must show an alternative.
That's right.
We must be able to say, look, man, there's another way, you know, and we have to start doing something ourselves rather than, you know, constantly waiting each and every year for this thing put on by corporate Britain now, because it's been taken over by corporate Britain, for us to go and engage in. Go ahead.
Yeah, as Brother Yon Muhammad said, we must be the clean glass.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I had sisters coming up to me who were half naked and apologizing, you know, because they know, you see, that's the thing with Black people. We actually have a conscience.
Yeah.
We actually have a conscience and we know better, you see, but in the absence of any other alternative, then we can kind of like just pretend that we don't know and go along with it. But when they saw us, they apologized. One brother came, he had his drink in his hand. He apologized for the alcohol. And, you know, and there were so many people like that who approached us apologetically. And, you know, like I'm just, you know, raving kind of thing. It's just this day kind of thing, but really, you know, forgive me. This is how people are approaching us in the nation. Go ahead, sister.
No, but I heard the Honourable Minister Farrakhan just the other day that God doesn't punish you when you're ignorant, but when you know better,
when
and
you know
continue
better
to do, then you don't have to be punished.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He never punishes us for what we do in ignorance.
Right.
But after we know, come on, man.
So it shows there's still light in us, despite the way we're dressing, half naked, well, naked. We still know that when we see God, we cover up.
Want to cover up. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that when they came along and they saw us, what they did was they avoided eye contact.
Oh, cool.
Because again, they knew that, oh, wow, the nation's here.
That's right.
I can't even look at these brothers, you see, because they know that we know.
That's right.
You know, and they know better.
Yes. Okay. I know that when I was in the world and I would see a brother in the nation, I would hide.
Were you in the world, baby?
I was.
Okay.
I was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you would hide yourself.
I would hide.
Yes.
Because I saw God.
You were what, 17 years old then in those days?
A year ago.
Yeah. But you know, our people know, our people have got a conscience.
That's right.
And what we've got to do. When I was doing stand-up comedy, family, for about 25 years up and down the country, somebody wrote an article in one of the newspapers. They said that Brother Leo is the conscience of the Black comedy circuit. And I would go backstage on numerous occasions, and I'd have fellow so-called comedians apologizing for their smoking or for the bad language. They would come off the stage and apologize for the language that they were just using on the stage. But I'm thinking, well, you know, okay, it's all well and good apologizing. Why don't you just stop doing it altogether? You know, stop doing it. See, but this is where we are, brothers and sisters. And nobody can make anybody change. Everybody has to make a determination to change themselves. Most of our people were happy to see us and wanted to take a picture or have a conversation, which we were more than happy to accommodate. The amount of people who approached us and were so happy to see the nation there. And again, you know, not looking like everybody else. And the police were very, very respectful. You know, when they see us, they know that they didn't make us. They know that this is a product that they didn't produce. Right. They know that this system didn't make us. And they were amazed at our stamina, because these are long days at Carnival. These are very long days. And the police are constantly changing shifts, but we are there consistently throughout the day, going into the night. And, you know, they don't see us drinking, they don't see us smoking, they don't see us eating food or whatever because of one meal a day, you know, and it's just wonderful. And then the police, so many of them, especially the younger ones, you know, when they have an opportunity coming up and asking, who are you? Who are you? In the Nation of Islam, we have a mantra. Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are, where we come from. And this was a constant refrain throughout those 2 days with police and others wanting to know, who are you? Who, why are you here? Why do you look the way you do? And we're there primarily to say to our people, look, man, there is an alternative to this life that we're currently living. It's not a way of life, it's a way of death. And we're trying to encourage our people to choose life. Choose life. Dear family, I hope everybody is good. Some people came with a false sense of being superior, and they even came to debate about Islam while not realizing the irony of their state of intoxication and dress code. This guy was intoxicated. Look at the way he's dressed, but he wanted to come and start talking to us about real Islam. Okay. This is the arrogance. This is the arrogance and the superiority complex that some of these so-called Orthodox Muslims possess. And we have to dispel them of this, and we have to put them right, and we have to teach them some manners so that they understand that we're not about to give up on what God has revealed to us and start following them. We do not follow Arabs. We do not follow Pakistanis. We do not follow so-called Orthodox Muslims who the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, 3 generations after me will not be of me. He predicted the deviation of the Islamic world, and they've deviated. As much as, we think that Islam is about wearing a long dress called a jalabiyah, or wearing a little skull cap called a kufi on the head, or using a wooden mishwak to clean the teeth, or any of these things, or growing a beard and dyeing it orange, because, this is supposed to make you look how the Prophet looked. None of this is the sunnah of the Prophet, the way of the Prophet. None of it is, following the Prophet. You may be trying to mimic, you may be trying to hoodwink or put on some fancy dress, but that doesn't make you a Muslim. That's not what a Muslim is all about. And so, our job today is to point out the reality and to give a clear word on the reality of what has been revealed to us through the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for the uplift and the liberation of our people, first and foremost. We make no apology for that, because nobody else is going to come and rescue us. We're going to have to rescue ourselves with the help of Allah. So, yeah, it was interesting, dear family, just some of the interactions that we had. And as always, I will say this to you, this is never all the subjects that we choose on the Imagination Show. They're never, ever designed to be comprehensive and, definitive in the sense of, we're going to exhaust such a subject. The idea is really just to point out to you, highlight some of the realities, some of the subject matters, and really to encourage you to go and do your own research and to look into things like the origin of carnival and the relationship between carnival and carnivorous and carnivore and so on and so forth, so that you yourself can come to an understanding and come to a realization of what these things are really about. We don't want to spoon feed anybody and try to give you all the answers as if we have all the answers. No, all we try to do on this show in the limited time that we have is to highlight particular things and then to encourage you to go and study and research for yourself. Because part of the big problem that we have in a world like this is that people don't study. People don't go beneath the surface. Everybody is on a surface level, and that's a recipe for disaster if we are just surface dwellers and we don't go sufficiently deep into things that we actually have an understanding. You listen to that word, understanding. You got to go beneath the surface so that the foundation is deep, so that you're standing on something solid, So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan continuously asked the question, how strong is the foundation? Can we survive? Because without firm, solid foundations, be it a house or be it you and me as individuals, we cannot get through what's coming. There's some rocky days ahead, dear family, and we need a strong foundation, okay? Understanding. We need understanding. We need to understand things, and we can only do that. You can only get under by going deeper, okay? We've got to, because it's only through that type of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that we're going to be able to survive what's coming. Did you have something, Sister Claudia? And so, dear family, I hope you are all good and enjoying this episode 93 of the Image and Nation show. Unfortunately, this year, as in previous years, many of our young people suffering from self-hatred and a lack of knowledge, who are high on drugs and alcohol, ignorantly played right into the hands of the police and the carefully laid traps that have been set for them. And so this is some of the evidence of these words.
I think I was swearing.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, highlighting this young brother running with a big machete in his hand. I mean, just
So how did he get in? I thought they had.
no, but they don't. Mr. Claudia is asking, how did he get in with that machete?
Because they have those.
Yeah, they got metal detectors, but there's so many. They can only capture so much.
Wow.
They don't capture everything. Young people know how to sneak these things past. Some of them get through, some don't. But and it's not everywhere that they have the metal detectors. It's only at those main entrances, like where we were. But there are various ways to get into the carnival that you don't have to go through any type of metal detector system. And so, here you got a young boy in the carnival running with a big, what they call zombie knife or machete in his hand. And last year, a young man was stabbed and killed at the carnival. I believe that there were some stabbings again this year. And there's somebody's son, there's somebody's brother, somebody's relative who has lost their life for no good reason whatsoever. And so, we don't condone this type of behavior. As much as the police are there setting traps and trying to tag our young people and criminalize them or whatever, as I said, a lot of our young people play right into their hands because they're so they've been made so ignorant now and so hateful of themselves that they will go into an environment like that with all of these hundreds and thousands of people carrying weapons. And as Sister Paulette said, going there with bad intentions to steal people's phones or to steal other people's properties and to just do carnage, to create mayhem. This is what goes on at the carnival. Then you have the police on their horses. And I mean, really, it's just crazy, crazy family. People with long knives, armed with knives, years and years ago at the carnival, we were attacked by some Somalian members of the Nation of Islam, and they pulled knives, and we beat the hell out of them. No weapons, we just beat them stupid. They felt that they should attack us at the carnival. They didn't realize what they were dealing with. But, you know, they go there, they're wearing balaclavas, they're carrying machetes or whatever. And then some of them, they're even shocked when they get stopped by the police dressed like that. Because it's so ignorant what goes on. But again, evidently you can see by these markings that have been put there by the police that somebody was badly injured, somebody, this is the police forensic team looking for evidence, because again, what happens is that, you know, people get stabbed, people get injured. I think somebody said that they saw a girl bleeding down there. And so, yeah, family, this is the reality of the carnival. This is what was going on over the weekend. And it's really nothing to do with Black culture. It's everything to do with us trying to find a place for ourselves in this world. And again, it's one of these things which we've adopted and we think is ours, but really the carnival is it's not ours. The carnival, even for you to have a stall there now, I think the stall cost is running in at £1,300 or something like that. So it's been taken over by corporate Britain. It's a money-making venture now. You've got all manner of entities who have got vested interest in the carnival outside of the Black community. And the Black community can hardly get a look in. I can remember on Monday morning, each day when we arrived at Carnival, we were arriving there 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, because you have to be very early in order to really set up anything that you're doing, and even in order to be able to get in past roadblocks and other restrictions that the authorities mount. And then what I was observing at around 9, 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning was all of these vans with all of these Black people who had got stalls or paid money and got all of their goods and articles to sell in their vans, trying to get in past these barriers in the carnival, and police and stewards basically stopping them and preventing them from being able to enter. And it looked to me like they were, again, deliberately trying to frustrate these people. And it looked like a lot of these people didn't even manage to make it in there. So they would have spent all of this money trying to, you know, go to the carnival and make some money, make some profit in their little businesses, whether they're selling flags or selling whistles or selling other paraphernalia or selling food or drinks or whatever the case. A lot of these people, because of their late arrival, not understanding again the type of structure that has been created by the system, that they would have lost out big time. And, you know, I could see the frustration on some of these faces in these vehicles driving around, unable to get in to the place because the authorities were basically locking them out, even though I could see that they had this pass in their windscreen that basically demonstrated that they had paid for a space, but because they were coming so late, it was too late for them to be allowed in. So, you know, dear family, we have to wake up. We have to do something for ourselves. We have to change up this dynamic and put aside Carnival and these other events, which are now part and parcel of the British system and the British way of life. And we have to begin to create for ourselves our own and stop giving away our things. Everything that we start, we allow it to be usurped, we allow it to be renamed, we allow it to be taken over, and then we ourselves. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. There's such a thing as sound systems. Back in the day when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, we used to go and listen to King Tubby Hi-Fi. We used to go to Cox and Sound. We used to listen to all of these sound systems. And according to my understanding, there's an international sound system competition that takes place now. And my understanding is that the Japanese now have the best sounds. They're the world champions. Japanese playing reggae music are the best sound system. And I'm thinking, oh my God, come on, how? But then one brother was explaining to me, well, it's because the Japanese have got the technology, the sounds, and they got the amplifiers, and they got the best technology when it comes to, the making the sounds. And so on that basis, they've got the best equipment and so on and so forth. But, to me, when you see other people taking over our music and they're now best at sound systems, come on, man. You see, this is where we have to wake up as a people, because it seems to me that nothing is sacred to us. And whatever we have, including our women, by the way, allowing our women to just go naked and to parade around with all manner of strange men up and down the streets. It's not a good look, man.
Because us as sisters need to wake up. It's in our hands.
It's not a good look.
No, it's not a good
Did you want to read something for us?
Well, it's in reference to the sisters of how we're dressing, because we will never get respect when we dress like that. And every day when you're on the street, you hear sisters, when a man looks at them, they say, oh, don't look at me, what are you looking at? But then in Carnival, you allow strangers to touch you, to rub against you. How? It doesn't make any sense. So it's all in our hands as women. We can stop a lot of things when we realize who we actually are, who we represent. So I'm just going to read something very quickly from our sister Ava Muhammad. She says, the world is in trouble because the world has no respect for woman. And if the woman has no respect, and if the world has no respect for woman, the world has no respect for God. When you respect God, you must respect woman, because the womb of the woman is a place of sacredness. Woman should be held in awe because of her majesty of her womb. When God and woman cooperate, Jesus comes forth, Moses comes forth, Abraham comes forth. But when women are estranged from God, then the womb produces a bitter fruit.
Wow.
The woman must be reconnected to God, so that the fruit of her womb will once again be the kings, the rulers, the masters of every discipline, whether male or female. These are the fruits of God.
Wow.
And that is the Black woman. And then when you see her naked.
Yeah. And last week we dealt with the undercover nature of the white woman. And it's, again, critically important that we understand those words from Dr. Sister Ava Muhammad, in that depending on the thinking of the woman, talking about the Black woman now, sisters, depending on your thinking, depending on what you're feeding on spiritually and physically, but more spiritually, what's going into your mind, okay, depending on these things will determine the type of fruit that you
That's right.
produce from your womb.
That's right.
Because whether we care to appreciate it or not, all of these delinquent children came out of the womb of a woman.
That's right.
And understand what we're making in the womb, if our thinking, if what we're feeding on is all wrong, you know, because Hitler came from the womb of a woman, the same as Jesus came from the womb of a woman. And the only difference quite often between those two people, those two individuals, is based on what
happened in the womb
was going through at the time of her pregnancy, how she was thinking, what she was feeding on. Serious.
It is.
Somebody, I think it's Sister Paula, mentioned about the dancing. And you mentioned it a minute ago, Sister Claudia, about how, you know, these women, and you got complete strangers. I was going to show some of those images, but I said, you know what, I'm not going to show it. You know, I'm not even going to show it, because when you see the way we behave at Carnival as women and men, but women allowing strange men, people that they don't even know, they're bending over and allowing the man to come behind them and simulate sex in the public. Some women literally wrapping their legs around men's thighs and sitting on top of them while they're gyrating in the street in front of everybody. I say, my God, man.
But that's the power of a woman. She can either bring out the God in the man or
the dog. Or the dog. Bring out the God.
That's right.
Or the dog. And again, sisters, you know, you need to appreciate also that you do have this power.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've heard...
We know that.
Yeah, but I've heard, you know, again, recently, all this talk about, oh, you know, woman should be able to dress however she wants, and the man, he needs to have the self-control. Yeah, there's truth in that. But understand this. We're taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that God designed us in such a way that we are attracted to one another. It's a natural attraction. The male is attracted to the female, and the female is attracted to the male. And there is no sane, natural man who will not react to the presence of a naked woman. It's just, that's just the way nature made us. Okay? So don't think that you can go naked and then say, well, why did he drool over me? Or why he keep looking at me? Or why did this man lose his mind? Yeah, some of us may have some level and degree of self-control, but make no mistake about it, beloved, this mentality, this attitude, where we think that we should be able to dress any old way with any part of our private anatomy brought into the public arena, and nobody is expected to react to that. Nah, man, we're being very unrealistic.
I'll just read a quick comment where somebody has said, you'd rather judge the Black woman for their choice of clothing than the young Black man who carried knives and machetes to a gathering of the Black community. The problem is young Black men. But where do young Black men come from?
Yeah, they come from the womb of a Black woman. And we're not juxtaposing one thing against the other. We're not making a distinction in the sense that one is worse than the other. The young boy, young brother bringing a knife into a place like that is as bad as the sisters going naked. The sisters going naked is as bad as those brothers bringing knives or guns or drugs or any of the things that we do. We're not saying that one is greater or worse than the other. It's all bad, and all of it is negative, and all of it needs to be stopped. All of it, that behavior needs to be modified. And so the idea that, you know, we're going to look at what the young boys are doing and say, oh, well, that's acceptable. No, we're not saying that. Exactly.
What we're saying is the woman is the key to the kingdom of God.
Yes.
And if the woman's mind is not right, she will continue to reproduce rotten fruit. It's all in the woman's hand. When she connects to God, it's all over. And they know that. That's why they enjoy watching us in Carnival naked, because she is the mother of civilization. And when you see her like that, right at the bottom, no, it's not a good sign. It's not a good sign at all. It's unacceptable, because it's actually our time to rise as women, Black women, to produce the Jesus, the Moses, the Abraham. It's all in our hands. A man can come to us, and depending on how we are, we know how to control a man by the way we dress.
Yes.
we have that wisdom. Women know that.
Women have that power.
We know that. You know, if you want to seduce a man, you just take your clothes off. You either bring out the God or the dog.
Come on. That's right, beloved. That's right. Imagination, promoting and advertising goods and services for the benefit of our community. Please take note of the following, dear family, and support. Don't forget, visit www.jjsorrel.com at jj_love_sorrel. Email info@jjsorrel.com or call 07947253341. That is 07947253341, and pick up some sorrel products. Absolutely beautiful, and you will enjoy it no end. Dear family, our young sister, Catalea Yvonne, is representing Jamaica and the Caribbean at the Miss Caribbean UK Beauty Pageant on Saturday, the 28th of October, 2023. This is how to vote. Go to @Miss Caribbean UK or Instagram and Facebook. Use hashtag #vote4 Catalea or hashtag #vote4Leah and support our young sister. Go ahead,
and
sister.
This is from our sister Catalea. She says, "Dear all, I am proudly representing Jamaica and the Caribbean at the Miss Caribbean UK Beauty Pageant. As a Miss Caribbean UK 2023 finalist, I will mainstream my campaign in speech marks, a better world to provide marginalized communities and children with better opportunities by providing improved educational facilities, living resources, and financial assistance. If you would like to create a better world by helping me raise awareness for my causes, vote for me as the People's Champion for Miss Caribbean UK."
Okay, dear family, and this competition, the grand finale, will be held on Saturday, the 28th of October, 2023 at the Shore Theatre, which is 100 to 110 Euston Road, which is located at NW1 2BB. The doors open at 5 p.m. Show starts at 6 p.m. and the show ends at 10 p.m. Quite a compact evening of entertainment. And if you can make it, please go along and support our beloved sister who is a finalist in those competition. Also, visit www.natureshairproducts.co.uk and try the beard oil, specially formulated hair butters, and so much more from Nature's Hair Products. And, you know, we encourage you, family, to put natural things on your hair and on your skin, and to leave out those things which have poison chemicals which do us tremendous harm. When you put them on the skin, put them on the hair, put them on the scalp, they're really doing us no good at all. And we are becoming sicker and sicker as a people based on the things that we put onto our bodies or put onto our skins. Don't forget, visit the tribe at www.tribenation2019.com and pick up an item of clothing, dear family. Also, we are still in those summer days. All right, it was raining today. I didn't really go out too much today. I was busy studying, but I don't know, was it chilly today? Not really. I was hot at the start of the show. I was so hot. Get your Proud to be Black t-shirts. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying get your Proud to be Black t-shirts, get your caps, get your mugs, have it in your home. You know, you can drink your coffee from your Proud to be Black mugs when the winter nights set in. Visit www.p2bb.uk or londonstudygroup19.org and order your Proud to be Black t-shirts, caps and mugs, and say it like you mean it, dear family, P2BB, or in other words, Proud to be Black. Also, don't forget Nia's bean pies. The bean pie is a delicacy eaten by the members of the Nation of Islam. One of the things that keeps us young and healthy, keeps us fit and strong. Get your bean pie. This is made from the haricot bean. The haricot bean, which is sometimes called navy bean. Why navy bean? Because the Royal Navy and the navies of the world go to war on these beans, in the sense that this is what sustains those soldiers and sailors who are working hard at killing other people. They eat the navy beans. This is what the white man was eating when he went to steal the land from the Native Americans, those beans. The navy bean, the same bean that they used to make baked beans. That's the navy bean. It's a very powerful bean. It is the pulses that are referred to in the Bible that Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego ate rather than consume the king's meat that you find in the scriptures. This is the haricot bean or the navy bean, small, white, hard beans that you have to soak overnight before you cook them, and you have to cook them for a long time. And then they are almost a neutral food that you can flavor to do whatever you want to do with them. You can make savory bean soup, or you can make a sweet bean pie. And so go and order your bean pie. If you're in London, it can be delivered to your door. So visit Instagram at Nias_bean_pies or call 07956 127 975. That's 07956 127 975. It is a sweet that's healthy all at the same time. Dear family, so we have had the summer pop-up, which was a great success, and now it's time to get ready and start planning for the winter pop-up coming up on November the 25th, 2023, and put on once again by MJ Promotions, with many and varied stalls for your shopping pleasure. So check out the winter. Summer pop-up was great. Nation of Islam, London, we had our Proud to be Black stall there, as you can see, and it was a wonderful event, and people enjoyed themselves, and there was some great shopping. MJ Promotions Limited. Once again, www.natureshairproducts.co.uk, and try the moisturizing hair and scalp oil, as well as beard oil and other natural hair products. Dear family, don't forget, brothers and sisters, visit our YouTube channel, The Nation of Islam, London Study Group. New means north, east, and west. Visit us there and like, share, and subscribe. We do encourage you, dear family, to like, share what we share with you, share it far and wide with others, and subscribe. Click the donation button to help us continue what we are doing on the Image a Nation show. Dear family, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in once again to another Image a Nation show. Why are you laughing, Sister Claudia?
Somebody's made a comment. Peace, brother. Brother, peace and blessings to you. My question is, why does the sister sit behind you and not beside you?
Yeah,
we are.
My sister's not sitting behind me, dear family. She's sitting right next to me. It's just that, I don't know, I must be so big compared to my little delicate wife that I look as if I'm in the front, but no, she's right next to me, dear family. Look, if I lean over, you see, yes, we're side by side. That idea and that notion that in Islam the woman stays behind the man, that's a myth.
Not in the nation.
Not in the nation of Islam.
Not in the nation at all.
In the nation of Islam, we are side by side. We are equal. We share the responsibilities of our family. And, you know, the woman is very much as important as any man in this life, dear family.
As Sister Lorna Muhammad said, a nation can rise no higher than its woman.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You teach, Sister Lorna. No nation can rise any higher than its woman.
That's right.
So we're taught in the nation that when you put your woman down, you put yourself down, you put your whole nation down. We cannot do anything without the female being right there at the forefront. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says the reason why the planet is in the trouble that it's in is because the woman is so disrespected and she is not given her right place. So
that's why she must dress properly, because she's representing God.
That's right. So Sister Paula said it was so packed. I never saw anyone from the nation. When you know better, you do better. I should agree with that. You need to do an exodus. That's what we say. That's what I say. Absolutely. There is a program called Exodus Blackset that we have in the nation. And, you know, it's something that we will roll out at some point to the wider community, because in the end, you know, there are alternatives to where we are, okay? Don't think that we have to, this is the only game in town, stuck in Britain, stuck in the UK, or stuck in wherever we are in North America. There are alternatives, and we're going to return to the subject of Africa on the rise very, very soon, because as you can see now in Gabon, yet another part of the revolution has unfolded, and Africa must be free in 2023. Make no mistake about it.
No, I was going to say, you'll love Stephen Brown. He says that I'm just short. That's why I love
Yeah, exactly. The woman is
5'9".
No, she's not. I keep telling my wife, yeah, she's so small. It's ridiculous. It's in Jamaica, we got to say it's Shilika but Shitalawa. Yeah, so she may be small, but she's big. All right, but it's just a difference, I guess, in the size of me as a man and her as a woman. That's all it is. We're sitting on the same height seats and everything, and we're sitting right next to each other. But she's just a tiny, delicate, beautiful flower. That's all. You know, that's all it is. But it does look like, look how much taller I look sitting there. Anyway. And my wife is under the impression that she's really tall as well, which is quite silly, because she's not. She's in America, that's why they use the term shorty. They say, yeah, that's my shorty. That's how they refer to the sisters. Nation can rise no higher than its woman. And Brother Victor says, what they do behind closed doors, they come to Carnival to see Black people do outdoors at Carnival every year without fail. And Sister Paula says, thank you so much, Sister Claudia and Brother
Leo.
Brother Leo. My heart is filled with gratitude. Catalea Zara. That's right. Yeah, we knew her as Zara when she was a little baby, little girl. Yes, yes, Leah. Thank you, dear family. May Almighty God Allah bless you once again for tuning in and for being here with us for another episode of the Imagination Show. And we pray that Allah will bless us and bless us to remain alive until we're able to join together again, same time, same place next week, inshallah.
And just to say thank you all for tuning in. If you want to contact us, get a pen and paper quickly, or do it on your phones. You can email us on imageanation@gmail.com.
So that's Imagination, Imagination, all one word, at NOI, is it? Imagination, NOI,
yeah,
at gmail.com. Imagination, NOI, at gmail.com. Okay, you can email us on that if you have points that you want to make, questions you want to make.
To contact Brother Leo Muhammad.
And, we'll take it up from there. All right, family.
But thank you all for tuning in from around the world. We really appreciate your time. May God continue to bless you all. Don't forget to tune in to NOI, the Final Call Radio.
That's right.
24/7. Don't forget to tune in to the Sunday meetings in Chicago headquarters.
Yeah.
And
that's it.
We come back next week.
Next week. And thank you, Sister Zara. Good to see that you're tuned in. And we'll speak soon. You all take care, family. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.